Hey, what's up guys? I'm still making my way through Spain, and I just wanted to make a quick video today to talk about a concept that has been on my mind a lot the last few days. And this concept is called the illusion of frequency. And this applies to a lot of different areas of life, but specifically it has to do with vocabulary learning when you're learning a new language. And to explain this, I'm just going to talk about one time that I experienced this concept. And the first time I ever remember actually experiencing the illusion of frequency was when I was a kid, about 20-some years ago. I want to say around 1996 or something like that. Whatever year Independence Day came out, the movie with Will Smith, when the aliens come down and they save the world on the 4th of July. And I remember going over to a friend's house, and he asked if I wanted to watch Independence Day, and I didn't know what that was, and I hadn't heard of it. I mean, you know, you hear about the term Independence Day as in the holiday, but even as a kid at that time, I don't think I even knew what Independence Day meant. I just thought it was the 4th of July. So we watched the movie Independence Day, and it probably had just come out on VHS at that time. And I had never heard of the movie before that, or I don't think I had even ever heard of the term Independence Day before that. But after watching the movie at my friend's house, I left that day, and I remember walking around and seeing someone with a t-shirt that had Independence Day, the movie, on his t-shirt. And then, like I said, this was probably right around the time where the movie came out on VHS. So I was walking through the stores and I saw posters of it, you know, probably saying like, now available on video cassette. And I remember my mom taking me to Target and going through the toy aisle and seeing, you know, little action figures of Will Smith and Independence Day toys. And I was like, what the heck? I had never heard of this movie. And now all of a sudden it's everywhere. I can't get away from it. I'm seeing it everywhere I go. And that is the illusion of frequency. So essentially what had happened was there were probably posters and t-shirts and toys of this movie all around me every day before I saw the movie, right? They didn't just all of a sudden just come into existence the moment I watched the movie. They were there. I just hadn't been noticing them. And the same thing a lot of times happens with language learning. Whenever you learn a new word, and this is something that has specifically happened to me within the last week in English, with my own native language. And the reason that this is on my mind is because I was watching a YouTube video. It was a debate between Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, and it was quite a long video. Very interesting though, and these are both very intelligent guys. Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson, they're very intelligent. They have very large vocabularies. And while I was watching this debate between them, it was like several hours, I think. I want to say like a 2-hour video. And while I was watching it, I kept running into these vocabulary words that they were using that I was not familiar with. So I would have to stop the video and go look up the words. And specifically the words that I remember looking up were verisimilitude, parochial, and epistemology. Okay, verisimilitude, parochial, and epistemology. These are not words that I was familiar with, or I don't think I had even ever heard them before. I remember, I think Sam Harris was the one that said all three of these words, and I remember watching this video and thinking like, come on, now he's just making words up. Verisimilitude? That's not even a real word. But then I went and looked it up, and it's a real word. And I was like, man, he's just showing off. He's just using big words just because he can. But the funny thing is, after I went and looked this word up, I actually heard it again 2 more times over the course of the week on other videos and podcasts and things like that. So it's a real word that people use. And somehow, and the same goes for the other 2 words, epistemology and parochial. I actually heard all 3 of those words more than once from other sources throughout the week. So it goes to show that somehow I had lived my whole life having never heard or having never noticed these words. And they're there. They're out there. People are using these words. You know, probably in other videos of people that I've watched. You know, this is not the first video I've watched of Sam Harris and not the first video I've watched of Jordan Peterson. And I've watched videos with many other very intelligent people that probably have large vocabularies. So these words are out there and people are using them, but for some reason I never noticed them until that one instance when I stopped to go look them up, learn the vocabulary word, learn what it meant, and now all of a sudden it's coming up all over the place. It's just popping up every day. And this is kind of extreme example with very large words that you hear very rarely, but that's because it's my native language. Okay, this stuff even happens in your native language. So when you're learning a language, let's say you learn, let's say you learn a new word in your native language that comes up only maybe in normal conversation, it'll only come up once every 10,000 words. Okay, this is not a common word, but if you're having conversations and you're living life in your target language, then that will come up, and it'll come up a lot more frequently than you expect. So sometimes I think I get a little bit discouraged when I'm using Anki or Memrise apps, and they're teaching, you know, because for Spanish and French, I'm past the very basics of using the entry-level flashcard decks. I always search for advanced French or advanced Spanish vocabulary words. And sometimes, you know, you're learning these words that you're like, when am I ever actually going to use this? Or when is it going to come up? But I guess what this experience tells me is that they do come up. They are useful words. You're not just learning useless vocabulary words. And yeah, if you're learning English, and you're listening to, unless you have a very, very, very high level of English, you're probably not going to be watching videos and having conversations where verisimilitude or epistemology come up all the time. But, you know, it's a gradient. You're going to be learning words that to you may seem very advanced, and those words are probably going to be a lot more common than epistemology and verisimilitude. So, I don't know, I guess now I'm just kind of rambling, but it's really interesting to notice when you learn a new word that you've never heard before, you've never noticed before, all of a sudden you start seeing it come up over and over and over again. And that's a really good way of practicing and working on those vocabulary words. And because you pay attention to it, because I actually stopped and went and looked those words up, verisimilitude, parochial, and epistemology, now they're like locked into my brain. And I'm not going to forget these words, especially since now I'm hearing them all the time. So that's all I have for you guys in this video. I'm almost done with my Camino de Santiago, so I should probably start uploading videos more regularly here within the next week or two. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll see you guys in the next video.